Thank you. Good evening. This is Arthur Gasparo, Chair of the Memorial Airport Commission. Welcome to the July 11th, 2023 meeting. This meeting is being hosted by Zoom and is being video and audio recorded. Just run over some guidelines that please provide your names for the purpose of keeping accurate minutes of the meeting, and please speak through the chair. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation, but we will have public comment. And please note that the meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating by video, and please be careful with your screen share. It may be broadcast on the recording. And please have all remarks go through the chair, introduce yourself, and then we'll recognize you. And finally, each vote in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And it looks like Mr. Marks may have just joined. Great. So we have all members present, and we'll move on to the agenda as published. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll consider that adopted by unanimous consent. We have the draft minutes of June 20th. Is there any questions, comments, or a motion to adopt the minutes as drafted?
I'll make that motion.
And is there a second?
Second.
The motion been made and seconded. Ms. Topham, how do you vote?
I'm going to abstain. I was not at that meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Planzer,
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin,
Aye.
Mr. Marks. Looks like Mr. Marks is connecting to audio. How about a thumbs up? I don't think he can hear us yet. I'll vote aye, and I think that that we'll consider those minutes adopted. We have the warrants of June 7th and June 28th to ratify. Are there any questions or further discussion or a motion to ratify those two warrants?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Topham, how do you vote?
Abstain.
Okay, the warrants were separate from the meeting, but that's completely your
Okay. All right. I'll vote yes.
that's
Thank
completely
you.
your prerogative. Those are the email ones that went around.
Right. Thank you.
Ms. Planzer,
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I think we're still waiting on Mr. Marks on audio. And then is there any public comment for items that are not otherwise on the agenda? Please feel free to turn on your camera and wave at me or wave your virtual hand. I am not seeing any. And with that, Mr. Marks, do you want to try something a little different? Can you hear us? Maybe log out and try logging back in. You want to try to just direct call in? Maybe, are you able to reach out to him, Boyana, by cell maybe, and just maybe he wants to just do a call in perhaps? I don't know if that might work for audio. Oh, he just dropped off. We'll just give it just a minute before we move on with the rest of the meeting. Well, if it's okay with everybody else, and I think that hopefully Mr. Marks can hear us. Can you hear us? I think I'd like everybody to be able to participate in the election of officers and assigning of committee members. If you want, if it's okay with the rest of the commission, we can hold off on that and move forward and try to come back to that. See
Yes,
if we can get them on. So we have a grant signing letter of authorization. Mr. Carberg, should we hold on that one as well until we have election of officers, or is it essentially going to be the same?
Sure, I think we can hold off on both 4 and 5. And I
Okay,
can move
so why don't we
into-
move on to hangar 8, and I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Carberg.
Okay,
Oh, Mr. Marks, can you hear us now? Never mind, I'm sorry, go ahead, we'll wait till we hear from him.
okay, thank you. I held 2 conversations as a follow-up to the previous meeting. I spoke with Mr. Slater of Hagedorn Aviation. They're interested in potentially discussing terms of a hangar renovation for hangar 8 for an aviation use in concert with an abatement for repairs and a shared use or rent back to the airport for our storage needs. We're working with Mr. Slater now to schedule a visit to Nantucket for him to view the structure further. I also spoke with a representative from Nantucket Flying Association. They would be interested in the space, however, they do not necessarily have the same backing or ability to take on the responsibility for renovation and payments. I did discuss with them some different options to help them find and use space for their community program, and I think we can continue with those conversations. We've also received additional interest from a tenant interested in running a non-aeronautical business. The airport could always take over the facility for GSC storage, but I'm comfortable currently with the direction engaging with Hagedorn Aviation and continuing that forward. I'll have more to report out in August. Hopefully, Mr. Slater and I can meet on site as his schedule allows. For PFOS related water service policy.
Maybe we just stop right there real quick. Sorry, Mr. Carver. Does anybody have any input or comments for Mr. Carberg related to moving forward with meeting with the prospective tenant and as he laid out?
That's all fine with me.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Carberg. I just want to make sure, Commission. Please move on. Thank you.
Sure. For the PFOS related water service policy review, I wanted to spend a couple minutes on this item very quick. I'll make it quick. In August of last year, the commission extended the airport's provision of bottled water to a group of, I believe it's approximately 7 residences or 7 homes on 6 property lots that had a PFOS detections of below 20 parts per trillion. These homes were in a unique position where the airport water main did not abut traditional curb frontage, which is the norm. And the owners, if they wanted to connect to the municipal water supply, they faced additive challenges in accessing an untapped section of the main that didn't contain curb stops, or possibly even needing to obtain easements through their neighbor's property. And at the time, the Airport Commission elected to extend or continued bottled water service provision to these specific residents to allow for time for them and the airport and the water company to address some of these issues. Since that meeting in August, the town has received a state revolving fund grant to design and construct additional water mains west of the airport, including servicing this area from the curb frontage. Construction relevant for this group of 7 homes could begin in the fall. Therefore, my recommendation for the commission is that we extend this policy again to February 28th of 2024. This timeline should allow for commissioning of the new main, plus the additional 90 days that we provided to previous homeowners to mobilize a contractor to provide these connections. The suggested policy revision that I marked up is included in your packet. I've discussed this with town officials, airport councils, and our consultant team. None of us think the revision represents an issue. My ask for the commission is that I take any direction from them at this meeting, revise the policy for the commission's action in the August meeting. And in the interim, I can also reach out to this affected group of residents for their comments and their participation for August. Are there any questions or direction from the commission on this policy?
No, what, I don't have any commissioners.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I think that's a
agree.
positive direction, working with the community. I appreciate being proactive and sort of getting out there ahead of this so that we can hopefully alleviate concerns that they may have had that it was going to be discontinued. Okay. Pending leases and contracts set
Okay.
forth on Exhibit 1.
Pending leases and contracts. I know we've had one update and I think I will take that update last.
Ms. Nelson, would you mind sharing the screen for during that discussion with the current Exhibit 1? Please, I think it's just helpful. The public can see that. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have an operating agreement with Lyft. Lyft is a transportation network company or a rideshare operator. They came to the table very quickly, turned the agreement around very quickly. They don't have any issues with the operating restriction or operating specifications or remitting the amounts specified by the airport, which is an originating fare of $3.25. So I thank them for that, and I present that for the commission's approval. We also have $54,912.90 for Clean Harbors for pickup of the expired Poet System resin. We have a non-dollar amount change order to the reimbursable agreement for the FAA work associated with Taxiway Gulf. And then I believe you have as a handout. Yeah, there we are. The on-call engineering and architectural services agreements with McFarland Johnson. We selected McFarland Johnson as a result of our 3-year RFP issuance, and this will allow us to continue to go forward with planned and as needed task orders. Are there any questions on these items?
Commissioners. Well, thank you, Mr. Carberg. Is there a motion to approve or adopt the leases and contracts as set forth
I'll
on
make
Exhibit 1 explained by Mr. Carberg?
Second,
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? I'm hearing none. Topham, how do you vote?
aye.
Ms. Planzer,
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin.
Aye.
Mr. Marks, so you have a voice?
I do finally, sorry about
All
that.
right, no problem. Great, thank you. And that's an aye with that voice? All right, the chair votes aye as well. Thank you. And with that, we can move back to item 4, which is election of officers and assigning of subcommittee members. And so first we would entertain a motion for chair.
I'll nominate Arthur Gasparo for chair.
I'll second.
Is there any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll accept and thank you for your vote of confidence. I'll appreciate that. Ms. Topham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer,
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin.
Aye.
Mr. Marks.
Aye.
Thank you all. I'll continue to do my best. And is there a motion for vice chair?
I'll nominate Andrea Planzer.
And is there any other nominations?
I'll nominate Philip Marks.
Okay, so we've got two nominations on the table. I guess we'll vote on that. Do each of you interested in the position? Or I guess we'll just go to a vote. So let me just write this down. Going in order, so I guess we'll just vote on the two nominations. Ms. Topham? How do you vote?
I vote for Mr. Marks.
Ms. Planzer? You're muted.
Oh, I'll vote for myself.
Mr. Buscarin,
Vote for Andrea Planzer.
and Mr. Marks.
I will vote for Andrea as well.
Okay, and so looks like it's gonna go to Ms. Planzer.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you. And thank you all. And committee assignments. Do we all want to stay with the same committees that we're on, or do you wish to make any changes? Or we could have we can put up the committee assignments that were in the packet. Does everyone wish to just maintain the status quo? I'm open to
Yes.
whatever you would like.
Status
Status quo is by unanimous consent. Does anybody wish to shift around at all? Okay, we'll just
Do it.
continue then. And then moving on to the grant signing letter of authorization. That's something that we do every year. Is there a motion to approve or adopt the grant signing letter of authorization?
I'll make that motion.
And is there a second?
Second,
Motion been made and seconded. Ms. Topham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer,
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
And Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to pending matters, and I'll turn it back over to Mr. Coburg.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Sansbury, myself, and Brian Turbot, the town finance director, review the process for utilizing the home rule petition that was passed by the Mass General Legislature. This would allow the airport to receive appropriation for grant projects when the funding did not accommodate ATM schedule. We identified a procedure. No further work is needed to codify it. Generally, the procedure would involve a discussion between airport staff and the finance director, formal adoption and direction by the airport commission. Then the airport and town finance would jointly bring the project to the finance committee for discussion. The airport manager and the finance director would then collectively bring the project to the select board. Select board would then advertise their decision in the paper. There's a 15-day window associated with that. And that would really conclude the process. The home rule petition itself is fairly encompassing, and it doesn't prescribe a burdensome procedure. We would just then wait for such a funding opportunity where the schedules do not align, and you could go forward in this manner. Are there any questions on that process or how and when we would utilize it? Otherwise, I can pull it off of the agenda.
No, I mean, if anybody doesn't have any questions, I would just offer you thanks for working through that. And it's been several years, I think, of getting to this point, and now we just need a grant.
Thank you.
PFOS?
For PFOS, we have a PFOS update table in your packet. We are still standing at 545 samples taken from 80 individual wells. Data is being received sort of in an ongoing manner from the spring sampling effort and is currently being analyzed by the consultant for inclusion in the August IRA update. This should be the final IRA update as required by Mass DEP, and the consultant will then present the data and the IRA document to the commission for the September meeting. And then as a reminder, we still have the option to ask for and receive what we call the non-regulatory interim status update. We have a couple of those included in our current task order, and as we go forward with task orders, we can keep these on the books. So even though an IRA status update wouldn't be required, as we receive any relevant data or project information, we can still bring the consultant back for a written and or PowerPoint presentation to the commission and the public. Deep well drilling has been moved back to September based on ferry schedule and contractor availability. This isn't necessarily a bad item. It's still difficult to accommodate in September, but it should be easier as a lot of our air carrier and corporate traffic does fall off after Labor Day. Are there any questions on the PFOS report for this month? Thank you.
Sounds like we move on.
Moving on to the crew quarters project. We met with town finance to review the procurement methods for the modular building and then the on-site labor, and I did want to share that schedule with you. The modular RFP for the building only, for the units that would be assembled off-site and shipped to the building site, would need to be issued by August 7th, so the modular companies can return something to us in time for the site bid. The site RFP for the general contractor, so the person who will hire the crane operator to unload the modular pieces, who will oversee the excavation for the foundation, that would need to be issued by September 7th for a 30-day bid timeframe. We would need these bids back from the GC by October 7th to hold bids for the November 7th special town meeting in case there is any cost escalation, so we can address that with a vote at special town meeting. These are somewhat aggressive timelines. Missing these dates, I'm sharing this information with you, as missing these dates could push the housing to 2025 occupancy. Another item, we met with, through our OPM, we met with the sewer department to review the sewer connection. The closest sewer access is approximately 600 feet south of the building site at Nantucket New School, more or less. We will need to build 600 feet of sewer and connect to it. The cost of the connection may be waived by the town, but the excavation, installation of the sewer line extension, the manholes, will be at our cost, which will add to the project. It's another reason we may need an extra appropriation at special town meeting. We will get this confirmed by the survey crew, and there will be an additional design and construction impact. Bracken Engineering marked out the test pit locations on July 7th, and I believe the firm's name is McArdle Gannon Associates, who will do the geotechnical engineering and the test pits on Tuesday, July 18th. The digging will be performed by Toscana, so there will be some disruptive site work at the location. We've coordinated that notice with Park Circle leadership and with the town of Nantucket. And then we are working to put a preliminary review of the building architecture on the next HDC agenda. I believe the filing deadline for that meeting is on the 17th of July for a meeting on the 25th. But we want to give notice to the HDC on the architectural elements, but I do not believe we're doing the site plan yet at this time. Any questions on the crew quarters update?
Nope.
Anyone have anything further on that? I had one question which I raised, and it was that did you think that we might be able to do the sewer separate, or you're not sure? You're still investigating that?
I spoke with our OPM and our engineer, and they both believe that at least at this point, we're best off for timing and cost, continuing with it as a design item from the sub, I believe, Bracken Engineering.
Sorry if I missed that. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Silt apron expansion.
South Apron.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Marks.
Yeah, just an adder to that, when you're doing the site work person, the barging, offloading, transportation to the site sometimes is not included by the modular company. So just want to double check that part.
I'll circle back with the OPM. I think they are, as are you, more familiar with modular construction than I am, but we'll make sure that those are covered for the GC bid.
When we do the, if I can interject, when we do the RFQ for the modular portion, the modular transportation to the island will be on the modular company and not on the general contractor. It's easier to do it that way. The same way when we do the erection of the building, they'll be responsible for the erection and setting on the foundation. So we'll communicate with the modular companies, and it'll be in the RFQ that they need to make sure that they have the transportation to the island covered. Most of the modular companies that we are reaching out to have done work on the island already, so they're familiar with it.
And Bill, we all know who you are, but for anyone who might watch the video later, could you introduce yourself?
Sorry, let me, hold on. I think my video stopped. I am Philip Cox. I'm the owner's project manager for the airport for the crew housing and the terminal project.
Thank you, Mr. Cox.
One other thing, Arthur, for me.
Yep, go right ahead, Mr. Marks.
Yeah, Mr. Cox went through Andrew. Sorry, Arthur.
Just go ahead.
Just to make sure the thing is in that proposal from the modular home, the assembly. I mean, the setting of the home on the foundation, and ensuring that the house is watertight. Because I've seen a lot of these that come that's not done. You know, they set the thing all up on there and then they walk away, and that obviously can create a lot of problems down the road. So just trying to give you some heads up for things that I've had to deal with.
So the modular company is going to be responsible for setting it. More than likely, they're responsible for tying in the roof, but not necessarily for doing the shingling. There's several companies that will do an entire package, including the shingling, which is the carpentry portion of it. But some of the modular companies said they will just provide and drop the building without doing the white cedar shingle exterior. So we may need to look at the general contractor to wrap up those portions of it. Part of the evaluation that we will do for the modular building portion of it and how we procure it.
Yeah, fair enough. I've done a few and seen a few done, and sometimes they don't get shingle for a long time, and it's not good for the house, as you can imagine. So
As Noah said, if we can't meet our aggressive schedule, what we may end up doing is putting it out all as one project to have a single contract for modular building and all ancillary work such as site work, foundation, to one contract, which would mean that modular building companies or a general contractor would solicit for an entire package. Unfortunately, what would that mean to us is that we wouldn't be able to get it done for a 2024 summer. So we have an aggressive schedule and we're hoping we can meet it. As Noah said, the schedule is going to be, if we can get everything ready for a modular building package by August 7th or so, their return on that would be responses by the end of August. That gives us enough opportunity then when we're doing the site and the other work and then put a complete package together for general contractors. It's a little more complicated than a normal, just let's put it out to one contractor, but we feel it's the best way we can get it done for a completion date of summer 2024.
Thank you. Does that answer your questions, Mr. Marks?
Yeah, I was just trying to share some concerns.
I appreciate the input. I think all of us, all our heads towards this and working together, the team approach. Hopefully we can avoid hiccups down the road and get this done smoothly. Thanks again. Mr. Carberg, the South Apron.
Yeah, for South Apron, we had a bid opening on, I believe it was Friday afternoon for the project. We received one bid from Robert B. Auer at about $36 million, which was significantly over estimate. Our consultant is doing the in-depth bid analysis now and some additional coordination with the FAA. There are some rules received now with if we only receive one bid on a major capital project. Of course, and this is the FAA's sort of catch-all discretionary project. So we do have to see how much money is available at the end of the year and address appropriately. I'd say at this time, given the bid, there's just a number of options that are on the table, from potentially delaying the project a year, doing a piece of the project. We just have to see how the funding falls out over the next few weeks or a couple of months.
Yikes, that's a big difference.
I think notably the item mentioned by McFarland Johnson was asphalted, I believe, $674 a ton. This information is all on the register for bid docs online. It's a significant escalation and does have impacts, forward-facing impacts for the rest of our capital projects that have paving components. If that's the price we pay going forward, a lot of our projects will come in more expensive. Considerably so.
Right. All right. Please keep us posted and let us know if we need to sort of consider any changes or approaches there with that, I think. And on to the manager's report.
Okay, starting with project updates for AIP projects. For Taxiway Golf, we continue to work through a fall phasing impact to an area of hotel where air carriers taxi to the ramp. For the work we have to do some work related on the fillets, which pushes barricades out into Taxiway Hotel. We're going to temporarily relocate the center line at the expense of 3 air carrier positions, spots 0, 1, and 2A. 2 of our carriers will conclude their operations by then, and 1 carrier we will relocate to the other side of the tent. We believe we have a workable plan. Our next step will be to discuss it with air traffic control and the impacted airlines. For the airport master plan update, the forecasts are under review by FAA. We expect to sign off soon. I have also, we also hold a technical advisory committee as part of the airport master plan group. I believe that's a series of 3 meetings to review some of the issues related to the process. I expect the chair to be part of these meetings. We also solicit an at-large commissioner to attend these meetings. So I'd like to ask either the commission as a body to recommend an additional person to send, or if there are interested commissioners, they can reach out to me and we can find someone who would like to attend. I'd also, I know, Arthur, if you're okay with handling it that way, or by email to me, or discussion now for an additional attendee.
I think anybody that might be interested and participating, just now's a good time to figure out who might want to do, who might have an interest in attending those meetings. If anybody wants to. Okay. I'll
Do-
report. I'll
Do you have
report
the
to
date? What are the
Um, The date was, we just got it today, I think, right?
Correct.
The first one is August 23rd at 1 o'clock.
Okay, I probably can't attend that.
Anybody else interested?
I
You
might
guys-
do that. Or I'll yield to Phil. If Phil Marks wants to do it, that's fine.
All right,
If nobody wants to do it, I'll do it.
You guys can decide, I guess, or I think as long as it's either one of you, and we'll have another meeting before that. We can always talk about it again if needed next month. See where we're at. As long as it's, if it's going to be more, if all of you or both of you wanted to attend, I think we'd have to post it. And I'm not sure we want to have, I don't know that at that level that it's, I think it's more of a staff level kind of a meeting than a posted meeting. So, all right, well, I guess you guys can think about it or. Okay, thanks. You want to continue on, Mr. Carberg?
For the geometry project, we're working through alternative evaluation related to environmental impacts and stub taxiways. I don't have a further update on the southwest ramp or runway 624. For terminal optimization, we held a design scoping meeting earlier today with the chair and the vice chair. We had a meeting to confirm our approach to the project and a walk through the terminal to further define the design scope. For the ARP truck and the ARP truck equipment, we opened bids today. We had one bidder for each. We are evaluating those bids now. They look pretty good. In your packet, we have a handout for our capital improvement program list. I was going to dwell on this for a moment, but we begin our formal CIP program typically in August with the FAA and Mass DOT. Prior to this meeting, though, this year, the town capital process has begun a little bit early. So we will be meeting with the town over the next few weeks to go over our project list. And we need to provide visibility to the airport commission, even though they're also up against two competing appropriation processes with the FAA in the town. But we want the airports, the commission's buy-in with the capital program. So we're trying as staff just to line this all up accordingly. Our best effort is to bring this draft list that I have for you now that we've put together with staff. We have 10 projects totaling $16 million in a handout for you. Very quickly, I don't have much more information than what's displayed, but we're looking to replace the high mast ramp lights between Juliet and the admin building. They're at their useful life end, and I believe they can be replaced with possibly shorter or less impactful alternatives. We'll need to do a second borrowing for our PFOS investigation projects. I believe that's going to exceed $6 million. We need to design some improvements and repairs to the ARP station to include a flooring project, fixing roof leaks, and I'd also like to design renovation to include 24-hour day routes as well. For our parking lot and airport road, typically we reserve some space on the town's paving contract. We've identified $200,000 as an amount we'd like to reserve for some small mill and overlay projects there. We're recycling from 2024 our electrical vehicle charging infrastructure of design and some upgrades for passenger vehicles, ground service equipment, and possibly some aircraft chargers. We're decided to hold $6 million for what we're calling employee housing phase 2. I've generically put down design and construct what could be phase 2 of the crew quarters project. These would be the townhouses, but it could also include the second unit or Build out of the alternate, the build out of the dormitory basement apartments, the 2-bedroom apartments. And or even a renovation to the Thompson House. We can further define the scope, but I wanted to put all of that on the table initially. We received a proposal from McFarland Johnson to design and bid improvements to our lighting system protection. It seems every year we lose some gates or some access doors in the terminal or fuel farm components to a lightning strike. So we want to fix this once and for all. And that's the purpose of that design program. We're also holding $175,000 for catch basin cleaning, installation, and replacement. We have a few fixtures located on our identified on our stormwater plan that will need evaluation. We'd also like to address some stormwater issues in the gravel rental car overflow area. Our second to last project is for $421,600. This is our annual paint and beads and rubber markings that we perform. And then we're asking for a additional $400,000 to an existing fiscal 24 approval for decontamination of the ARF trucks, purchase of fluorine-free foam when it's available. We want to make sure we have enough in the bank to take on those projects. So that's an initial list. We'll be working to scope those, but we are also open to any, well, first of all, we want to be able to answer any questions, and we're open to any additions, deletions, or other priorities from the commission.
Commissioners? I think it looks good. I appreciate the items that you have on there mentioned earlier. And hopefully we don't spend another $6 million on PFOS.
And I'll continue to update as we move that process through our dual appropriation pathways with the FAA and with the town.
Thank you.
For non-AIP projects, I discussed crew quarters, lightning arresters. For right-of-way research, we have a meeting upcoming with our surveying contractor and airport council about the most efficacious way to extinguish Old South Road and Hinsdale roads as they go through the airport. There are 2 pathways. I'm sure that I'm not the most knowledgeable on this, but the airport is the owner on both sides of the road for the paper roads. So by claim under my understanding land court proceedings, we own to the center line anyway. We may be able to just formalize that to close out any claims on those roads. The other more involved pathway is to create a survey plan and bring it through, I believe through town meeting. So the purpose of the meeting is to decide which path would satisfy our FAA Exhibit A requirements. So more to come on that. For the stranded passenger plan, we've distributed it to stakeholders. It is active. It appears to be working. We've had a number of late night cancellations that have not resulted in late panic and trying to find passengers lodging at 12 or 1 in the morning. I wanted to thank Liz Holland at the High Line, Chantal Blois at the Office of Culture and Tourism. I'll have a follow-up for August. I'm going to recommend a couple minor revisions to the airport minimum standards just regarding air carrier staffing. Any questions on those items before I move on to RFP and bid status?
Commissioners? Sounds like we move on, please.
Thank you. The IFB for automated doors has been awarded to Allegiant Access Technologies. So we received 1 bid for the South Apron. It's under review. I just mentioned ARP trucks. Terminal optimization project. We have awarded that to McFarland Johnson, and we are in fee negotiations. Part of that was today's earlier meeting to discuss and move ahead with the scope of work. Thank you for your approval for the RFQs for engineering and planning with McFarland Johnson. Permitting is completed for what we call the portion of lots J and K, which are behind the existing Toscana and Victor leaseholds. We're developing that RFP and we'll issue it as soon as we can. For the impound lot and that upcoming RFP, we've received a draft appraisal from our appraiser. We're reviewing that and we're going to consider an RFP approach that makes the most sense. The issue we're dealing with is that impound rates are capped by the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities. It's the same rate for Nantucket that it would be for the Berkshires or Brighton or Boston. And that's not necessarily in line with Nantucket appraisal prices. So we need to reconcile those items, make sure we can issue an RFP that would make sense for a potential operator. And then again, we've seen draft appraisal receipts regarding the potential RFP for that area or a town DPW campus. We'll need to review that, finalize the appraisal, communicate an updated pro forma to the town once it's finalized. For operations update, we have a upcoming deadline of the 28th to follow up for our FAA inspection. We had 2 items. The first for that 28th deadline is to update a training master list for the FAA. The next for October is to finalize repairs or repainting of a number of markings on the airfield. We're waiting to complete our on-call contract with Burns McDowell. I believe we need a few items back from Burns McDowell to bring that contract to the August commission meeting, your approval. For Nantucket Oasis and the current lease access issue, we held a meeting with Oasis and Toscana. In that meeting, we figured out that Toscana can provide a temporary access for Nantucket Oasis through Toscana's leasehold. We'll reduce Toscana's rent in kind. That gives us a few months to move the fence to accommodate the access needs for Nantucket Oasis. Project also has a number of upsides for electrical access and safety. I'm very grateful to all parties for coming to the table and collaborating on a solution. For fuel supply, we continue to work through a number of logistical challenges since we last discussed this in June. Boston Terminal ran out of fuel, Prist, fuel icing inhibitor prior to the July 4th weekend. There was a late cancellation of our order, which led to a cancellation of 20,000 gallons in delivery. We didn't have enough time to secure supply from an alternate terminal. We did eventually, a day later, take delivery from the alternate terminal, but then they denied future service, citing a sudden demand spike from a number of airports in the same position we were in. Subsequently, we decided we would just take on Jet A negative, which is without the fuel system icing inhibitor. It required us to segregate the 2 products, which reduces our effective capacity. We then had an issue with batch loading at Boston Terminal. We lost another 10,000 gallons. Jet Truck 2 went out of service. And all of this was happening while we were seeing a 24% spike in demand. And again, if that continues, that level of demand spike, that's an increase of 25 trucks that we need over 9 weeks, which isn't a realistic ask of anyone, not JP Noonan, not the steamship. So we're focusing right now on a coordinated response. It's been a real team effort between the steamship, World Fuel, JP Noonan, and our staff. Everyone's working together. The airport, my point of view is we're trying to focus on the items we can control, which is a pricing strategy, managing our inventory. And we've had success with this. I wanted to thank our stakeholders. We have put some pricing controls into place. We're meeting demand. It's a free market system right now. The outcome that I think we do need to to bring out of this is we need better insight from Boston Terminal. I know we are a minor player there and they run a very complex, high volume operation. But I think the ask that we want is we need Boston Terminal to give full visibility to World Fuel Service. Just because an outage or a delay from Boston Terminal has such a big impact on our logistical system. You know, given the fact that we need to find additional drivers, load the night before, find boat reservations, and these effects trickle down eventually to scheduled commercial carriers, and even though we save fuel, med flights. So we'll be working on how to make this ask and to whom. Again, it's not antagonistic towards Boston Terminal. They have a big complex operation, but we do need them to give more insight to our fuel vendor. While these fuel system or fuel supply issues were going on, we also had a rough week for air service. There were a number of national impacts which trickled down locally. In my view, there's a lack of general system resilience. It's a combined impact from labor shortages across stakeholders, high aviation activity, weather systems that result in an event that may not be unusual in years past, but seems to cause a larger ripple across the national air traffic system. You know, for example, storms in New York that maybe could have been overcome, maybe would have affected a couple airports and have been overcome in an afternoon, now affect the entire East Coast and an entire network of hub systems and can take a day or more to elicit recovery. The last 2 weekends at Nantucket, there were multiple days where every outbound commercial destination from Nantucket was under some form of ground stop and ground delay. You know, there's only so much that Nantucket can do when the entire system is locked up like that. We have multiple backups, delays, canceled flights. To our benefit, the stranded passenger plan was working. Stakeholders are working hard. I think it's just that these individual efforts are overshadowed by the level of system dysfunction nationally. But they do put our local flaws or shortcomings on display, our terminal design, our terminal capacity. So we're all aware of these issues. We continue to work on them with our stakeholders. I have them front and center here for your review and for the public. No one's beyond constructive criticism, and we'll continue to work to do what we can. We are in the business of promoting aviation and air travel, and we'll act accordingly. 2 more items, and I'll pause for a break. Special town meeting is, I believe, November 7th. The airport has 2 articles. We have a zoning article, and we have an appropriation article that we are holding in case we need additional funding for the additional sewer work for crew quarters or for price escalation for the crew quarters project. I have a travel request for the September, travel request for September associated with a request for a September meeting reschedule. I've traveled to the AAAE National Airports Conference in Spokane, September 8th through the 13th. It's one of the conferences identified in my contract. But as a result of this travel and some scheduled administrative leave, I would request that we move the September 12th scheduled Airport Commission meeting to the following Tuesday. And I can also come back to you with this in August, but if the commission approves of this travel date, I would work with Boyana to confirm availability, both with commissioners and of the YouTube, of the Zoom platform for the move. And I'm sorry, I misquoted the date. The date would be September 19th. Be the proposed date for the September commission meeting.
Does anybody have any concerns with moving the September meeting from the 12th to the 19th?
No.
Why don't we just go ahead then and do that and save a bunch of emails back and forth?
Mhm.
And any concern with Mr. Carberg's travel request?
No.
No.
Okay, hearing none, we'll consider that unanimous consent. Thank you for letting us know, even though it's in your contract, we do appreciate the two-way communication on that. Any other questions for Mr. Carberg on his manager's report? Mr. Marks?
Mr. Carver, I was just curious, are we sole sourced with our fuel? And if so, is that because there are no other options in New England like where we are? Because in my fuel business, I buy from 4 different suppliers, and some are a little bit more expensive than others, but it's more about having that option when you can't get that fuel from one
Right.
supplier. And I don't know if you have those options or not, so, because I'm not familiar with the aviation, fuel side, but it's just one of the things that I do, so.
There are multiple suppliers. Our fuel contract is something we put out to bid competitively. 3 years, sometimes it's 4. We will extend month to month. Our current provider is World Fuel Services. I believe they also supply Hyannis. The Vineyard uses AvFuel, and I believe Epic Fuels is also a player in the market as well. So they're all good regional national firms capable of providing the same service. I'd have to look into it further, but I don't think that there's anything that would preclude us from having the option of 2 fuel suppliers or multiple fuel suppliers. That would just be an item to specify in the RFP. Generally speaking, they all would prefer to utilize East Boston Terminal for Jet A as a primary. And I believe they would all, from past contracts, they've all proposed using JP Noonan as a distributor. So the main players would all be fairly similar. There might be some differences in an identified backup terminal.
Yeah, I guess that's more where I was going to, having the multiple terminals to pull from, because, we've had similar issues too, getting supply through a particular rail terminal that you can't get it, but you all have all your other suppliers that will usually take up the slack and help you get through that time frame. That's more what I was thinking about, is the diversity in terminals.
I think it's a well-placed comment. I think the item that we've learned for any future contract, however that contract is specified, is paying more attention to not only the alternative terminal, but the alternative distributor as well. It is a lot different in time and logistics to pull from Rensselaer or Providence or another terminal.
Thanks. Anybody else have anything further on the manager's report? Thank you, Mr. Carberg. Commissioners' comments, any comments for anything that wasn't on the agenda or for a future agenda item?
I have, Mr. Chair, I still have statistics and.
Statistics, I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Thank you. Boyana, would you be able to share the statistics packet while I go through? Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and start. For May, total operations are down, I believe that should say down 11% and down 9% year to date. Southwest ramp ops for May were up 1.5%. Emplanements were up 6% in May and up 1% year to date. We're in the time of year where those, with a high season, where those numbers will trend up. For Cape Air, there was a 20% increase in passengers and higher load factors. For Cape Air, New Bedford was up 40% on higher load factors. Hyannis was down 74%, and the Vineyard was up 3%. We're reporting the large air carriers. They are all up. This is predominantly due to timing and number of operations. I'm waiting until the review of the June stats before establishing trends. The Jet A gallons sold were up 2% in May and 3% in June. 100 low lead was up 15% in May and down 20% in June. There is an error displayed for freight. Freight was up 3.8% in May with FedEx and UPS up, Cape Air Freight and USPS both down. We had 3 noise complaints. I'm logging the noise complaints currently, but not investigating that. And I'll remedy that soon, which I'll address in my personnel report. Are there any questions on statistics?
Hearing none, let's move on, please.
For personnel, I have a retirement announcement. Lenny Lieber, who has been an airport custodian for 25 years, is retiring at the end of September. Not only do I want to thank him for his service, but I especially want to thank him for calling his shot after the end of a busy season. We certainly had options, so that is appreciated. We will be planning a farewell and a send-off for him accordingly, so commission can look forward to that. We will have a new hire. Cameron Woods has accepted the environmental coordinator position. She will start at the end of the month. We're happy to have her aboard, and we will start her immediately with noise abatement to process our backlog of noise complaints, provide that response. And then an appointment announcement. I've been appointed as the vice chair of the AAA Environmental Services Committee. The committee's primary goal is to guide industry policy to regulators and assist membership with implementing complex solutions to environmental challenges at airports. I look forward to that role and representing Nantucket as well. That's my report. Thank you.
Congratulations, Noah.
Anyone else have anything further questions for Mr. Carberg on the report? So now we'll move on to commissioners' comments. Any commissioners' comments?
No,
Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. Any members of the public? You can have the participant list open, raise your virtual hand, turn your camera on. Seeing none. With that, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session per general law, chapter 30A, section 21A, to review the executive session minutes enumerated on the agenda. Clause 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. Where an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the commission. Clause 3, discuss strategy regarding Walsh. Where an open chair is determined an open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the airport commission. And under clause 3, discuss strategy with respect to pursuing legal claims against the manufacturer of PFOS and other potential sources of PFOS where the chair is determined an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the airport commission, not to return to open session. Is there such a motion?
so moved.
And is there a
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Ms. Topham,
Aye.
Ms. Planzer,
Aye.
Mr. Wiscarin.
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Thank you all.